probably drop it 2 inches. So we'll go up 14.5 from the 12.5. The third one I did was with Indy Larry. We rode from St. Louis to Sturgis. Like a beautiful flower open up in the morning. That just happens to be luck. Scissors, it's Jedi level. That's Jedi level.
That's true.
Pretty inconsiderate of Harley-Davidson engineers to not think somebody like us might want to come and chop one of these things up completely one of these days, you know? So,
Hey guys, real quick before we get into this extended version of the video, if y'all follow the channel closely and you've seen the previous video where Billy Lane and I work on hardtailing our Softail Heritage, a lot of this footage might seem familiar to you, but I wanted to release kind of like a director's cut, if you will. So this is an extended version. There was so much that happened, we wanted to kind of trim it down and make it like a nice compact episode. But I wanted to release an extended version to give you guys a sense like you were just hanging out in the garage working on this bike with us. Billy is a legend in the industry and he's got a ton of knowledge. I wanted to basically be able to share that with you guys in this episode. So if you like the longer episodes, let us know, drop a comment down below. If you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit the like. All right, she's officially on the lift, which is crazy that there's a bike that I'm working on with the legendary Billy Lane in the shop on the lift. Bro, thank you.
I'm happy to do it.
It's crazy.
So you know how I generally do things is we get the bike on the lift, that's the end of day one.
Yeah. I feel ya.
We take a break and celebrate the victory.
Yeah. Have a beer or whiskey.
Start fresh the next morning.
For me, take everything apart, stand back, walk around it a bunch, look at it, and then that's the end of day one.
Yeah, but you know what? You're not wrong doing that. I bet you I spend 25% as much time looking at it as I do working on it.
Yep.
I look, I do something, I mean, different angles, you know, on the ground, up on the lift, and you see things, and that's how you kind of get an eye for perfection.
Yeah.
And symmetry and, proportion and everything else. So I look a lot, so you're not wrong doing that.
You're studying it. Like with the tractor seat, obviously wanted that for that old school look, and from the side, great. From the top, I'm like, it's like, well, what am I gonna do about that now? Yeah. We'll figure it out when we get there.
I have to make a tool. I don't have a socket this big, but we'll have to make a tool. A nut on this side, there's a hex on this side. I'm gonna have to hold, but I can make a tool to hold it. So I'm gonna come right off, inside the frame. I'm gonna come right off that nut and come straight down, and then straight from here weld the bar back that goes to this. You know what an Evo Softail swing arm looks like?
Yeah.
So that swing arm comes all the way down. So I'm basically gonna come off this pivot and weld a tube down, and then weld a tube back. This pivot is your structural point. That's where they want all the stress to go anyhow. The frame's got a split in it, so it's pinched, but the...
Comes from what, this angle?
Yeah, it comes from the bottom, thank goodness.
That was an engineer thinking of the mechanic, thankfully.
Because there's nowhere for me to attach down at the bottom here, unless I come all the way up under here. So this is that 1 1/4 inch tubing, which is what your swing arm is made of. Well, it's a forging here, a forging here. This has a little, what I would call a TIT, but like a little nub inside here that slips in.
What's TIT stand for?
Tube internal tubular, or TIT.
Tube internal tubular. Sounds a little redundant. You just made that up?
Yeah.
Nipple.
I would just call it a TIT.
We call it a nip.
Yeah. Ultimately, we're gonna get rid of this part here. This is going bye-bye, and we're just gonna use the axle plates. Figure a way to get peel this tubing off that's onside that's attached to the piece inside, and be able to slip this one over. 14 inches, 16 inches of steel here, and the bottom is going to be more, a little bit longer, but it's just working, in an environment I'm not used to working in.
Making Billy Lane uncomfortable, boys and girls.
Oh, come on. But the thing is we got to tie into here, because this is where your fender strut was.
Yep.
We can't just leave this way. So somehow we're going to have to tie in there. That's what we'll do is we'll weld a piece of tubing across here that'll go between the tire and where the shock used to mount, because the shock's going to be gone. And then we'll cut this, along here, so this half of the tubing is showing, and then bolt it back up here too, so it'll weld up in here and bolt in here, so that it basically eliminates any kind of visual that it's been messed with. So it look like it was made this way. This crossbar right here is actually where your rigid fender that you have sitting there is going to mount.
Oh,
so,
yeah, right there.
Yeah. That would mount here on a stock Harley-Davidson frame, you know, from the 1930s, and it'll give you some strength. Probably make pretty quick work of this. You know, like I'm pretty fast once I get moving. Figuring it out is the hard part, and having a plan. And then once that's kind of accomplished, everything else goes pretty quick. And then you can also move your seat back. You know, like that's the thing I love about rigids is, like if you're sitting here, you're so far off the ground, but if you move back just a couple inches, you're way closer to the ground.
Right.
You're really going to notice that difference in seat height. You'll be able to move your seat back as far as you want. Because once your fender's going to be mounted way back from where it is now visually, and you're going to have a funny looking gap in here.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to move your seat back, which is actually going to be better. It's going to be lower, but it's also going to make it more comfortable for you to ride it. It's going to, you know, you get that feeling of, and me and Larry used to talk about this, like sitting up on a motorcycle versus sitting down in it. Because these bikes they skew front heavy because of the engine is, you know, up there, and as you move your body weight back, it makes it handle so much better because you're, you know, equalizing the weight. You're probably going to drop these forgings and stuff we're going to take out of here. You're probably going to drop 30 pounds off this thing. That shock and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now that we've had the chance to take a look at it, we've got a plan to figure it out. I already pre-cut that tubing. I'm going to clean the tubing up so it's ready to, you know, weld and go on. You know, so when you get back here tomorrow, it'll be like that. And we'll just, you know, jump into it. I mean, it's still a full day's worth of work, but we can work through the night tomorrow night.
Dude, I really appreciate it. Like, this is still, like, to me.
To me, man, I'm just another guy in the motorcycle business who's been lucky enough to be here for 4 decades.
The accomplishments that you have, I mean, you're a legend in the industry. Like, being here, being able to work with you, like, it's not lost on me, like, how much of a rare opportunity it is. So I really appreciate you, man. I appreciate you taking the time and getting out of your comfort zone for something like this. You know, the fact that it's for Born Free, this is something that I'll keep forever. And like being able to work with you on it, man, that's massive. So, dude, thank you so much, really. All right, so on this side, we're removing any unnecessary, right? So we got the belt guard off, obviously the fender off, the lower belt guard off, the lighting, all that stuff. Since we are going to be removing the shock, I'm gonna go ahead and remove all the bracketry here so that we can have access to this whole section clean. Billy is over here on the lathe.
Yeah, I'm just descaling, you know, all the steel tubing we use to make your rigid rear section, you know, comes with a foundry scale, they call it on it. It's like oil and grease and stuff from the heat from the foundry. And then it's been sitting outside for, you know, a week or so, 2 weeks, and all the rain we've had, it's all rusty. So I'm just kind of descaling it so that when I weld it, it's clean. When I wear out my belt sander belts, I take them and I just cut them and use them for stuff like this. Abrasives are so expensive.
Dude, yeah.
So it's like it's too wore out to really shape stuff on my belt sander anymore, but it's still good for something like this, just for descaling. So maybe a little home trick for somebody who's doing stuff.
Hey, resourceful. Just talking about losing fingers, and apparently Billy lost his fingers too.
Oh yeah.
Not the only one. Did you ever tell this story on yours?
No.
On your stuff?
I was backing out of my driveway and I had like my driveway was on like a little hill and I had my hand on the right grip and I let my left hand dangle and I was looking back over my left shoulder and my fingers got caught right in the rear belt drive of the bike. Got bike with belt drive. Cut the end of my middle finger and my ring finger on my left hand right off. Pick up the pieces and take them to the hospital with me.
Yeah, I did the same, picking up the pieces. Unfortunately with mine, it got crushed, not cut, so they weren't able to reattach, but that's cool that they were able to reattach yours.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it took me probably 15 years where like I didn't play guitar forever. I thought I wouldn't play guitar again because I still can't feel anything in them, but I just had to basically learn how to the level of pain that I feel is like how I determine how much pressure I'm putting on them. Like when I ride my bike in the winter,
dude,
like and those fingers get cold.
Yeah, mine hurts like a mother. It's called.
Yeah, because you know the nerves aren't where God put them. The nerves are now where you put them. You know what I mean?
Nerve relocation.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys have lost fingers, post up in the comments down below. It's more common than we thought.
Take out some of these pieces.
I've worked in some high stress environments, you know, wrenching on cars and bikes and all that stuff, but while you're walking on a bike and Billy Lane's sitting right there, that's stressful.
My wife thinks I'm here working, man. That sold me out.
Oh, my son, yeah, he's working. He's waiting on me, and I feel terrible about it. Oh, I grabbed the wrong socket. How embarrassing.
All right, so Blockhead stripped the bike down, got all the stuff off of it that's kind of going to be in the way of what we're going to do. We're going to make a hardtail frame out of the Softail to mimic what a 1930s Harley-Davidson Knucklehead would look like. This whole swing arm pivots from this point here, and the suspension moves up and down, is what gives you, you know, a softer ride than a hardtail does. So what we're going to do is save his axle plates and the brake hardware and everything from here on, and get rid of all of the rest of this. Is going to be gone. The shock, all this stuff is going to be gone. But we have to mount to the bike somewhere, so we're going to use this pivot point to mount. We're going to come right up here and bolt to these bolts from the swing arm. So it'd actually be almost like a bolt-on rigid up top here. And we'll probably weld in or do something else up in here too once we get all this stuff out of the way. And then we need to come down and connect at the bottom here. And that creates some issues for a couple reasons. One is the oil tank is underneath the gearbox, and the drain is right there, so we have to make sure that we don't obscure the drain so that oil can be changed. The belt is over here on this side, so we have to make sure we aren't interfering with the belt. And then there's this issue, which is the angle here, forging on the swing arm. So I'll measure it right now. You know, just get a rough measurement of it. But this angle, 30, 31 degrees, somewhere in there. We want this to line up with this line on the top of the frame, right? So we can bring this up a little bit, which is good because we want to lower the bike.
Yep.
His front end is 3 inches shorter than the front end that's on here now. So if we put his front end on and don't lower the back, the bike's gonna be raked downward in the front, which is gonna look really funny. We're gonna bring this angle up and bring this up here, but also I need this angle to come directly down to the bottom. You see the difference in angle here. So we're gonna go basically from like a 30 degree to about a 40 degree angle. So it's about 10 more degrees in here. The forging's set at whatever it is, 29, 30, 31 degrees, but I'll just put a little bend in the tubing here and manipulate it. That's the good thing is when it comes to steel, you know, we beat it into submission until it works. You know, the steel doesn't tell me what's gonna happen, I tell the steel what's gonna happen. So we'll get it, but that's a couple things we gotta do. And obviously use your mounting point because this is structural. And we have to use this because this is also your rear motor mount. The motor and transmission pivot, you know, and the rubber mount set up in this bike pivot from this axle right here. So we have to maintain that. But yeah, so we're gonna take this all apart, get the wheel out, get the swing arm off. I've already got some steel cut up and cleaned up, descaled and cleaned up on the lathe. 30 degrees, and we're gonna go to about 40 degrees. So that I remember, because I'll be walking around later going, what did I tell you that was again?
I like how future Billy sounds way older.
Yeah, man. Yeah, somebody's just head-ons me in traffic before I get to that point, before I sound like that.
Yeah, right.
So right now your axle's at 12.5 off the table, right? So you're up. And then your length, you know, because your belt is tensioned right now. So your total length from center to center is 17.25. So I'm gonna mark that too, just so that when we get everything done, your axle's gonna be basically in the same point, but up, we'll probably drop it 2 inches. So we'll go up 14.5 from the 12.5, and that'll give you, you know, raising the axle lowers the ride of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
We'll raise the axle 2 inches, and then you'll be the same distance from here to here.
Nice. Notes right on the bike, love that. So this is the angle that we're going for on the back versus, what'd you say, this one back here is a JD?
They changed all the geometry when they went to the big twin, really flat-headed Knucklehead, because the horsepower was so much bigger, it would break a frame like that. So they changed the angle to make it stronger.
Nice. This is like those details that, you know, the common person, whatever, just walking by the bike at the show is never gonna notice, but the people that really appreciate it, such as Billy being the professional and having the eye that he does. We're trying to think of a name for it because resto mod is like taking something old and like giving it modern performance. But in this case, we're taking something new and giving it that vintage flavor. And so somebody in the comments section called it a retro mod.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. I think that's what we'll call it.
Devolution.
Yeah, yeah, true. We're going backwards.
Destroying the ride of a perfectly good Softail.
Yeah.
Destroying the soft, cushy ride of a perfectly good Harley-Davidson Softail.
A couple people had that to say too. They were like, you're hardtailing a Softail? Like, how disappointing. I was like, yeah, you got to pay to look cool, you know? Not in money, in chiropractor bills, which I guess is money.
But I'll tell you what, if you put the Springer on this and didn't take the Softail off, it would not ride right.
Yeah. Be bouncing all over the place.
Like a late model Springer, because it's not designed for that. I had a 1945 Indian Chief, and they had the leaf spring on the Chief up through 45, and then at 46 and later they had the girder front end. The girder front end rides like a dream, but the rear is sprung on the 45.
Yeah.
And then before that was rigid. So the rigid frame with the leaf rides great, but as soon as they put the shocks on the back, the leaf, I mean, it rode like a dump truck on flat tires. It was a horrible ride.
Yeah. So you would think like a seesaw or something, like, yeah.
Look good.
Yeah, but it looked cool.
You look cool being miserable.
Yeah. I mean, that's chopper shit 101, right?
Pretty much. The female hex of this swing arm with my 3/4 inch wrench, which basically is the head of a 1/2 inch bolt. So now I can use that bolt head as my tool to hold it, because I don't have an Allen that big. And I can just double nut it here with a jam nut and hold it from this side with a 3/4 inch wrench and hit the other side with the impact. And we're set.
That shit is genius. Engineer brain right there, man.
It's called 40 years of experience. Man. That's what it's called.
That's awesome.
Doing this. See, now I can just hold this with the wrench over here. We hit the other side with the impact, because it's got just a nut on it, and boom, we're set.
Nice.
That wasn't gonna work well, was it?
Hey, don't eat that. No eating.
It's got light on it, man. Look at these people. Taking good care of your boy, man.
That thing's serious.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you wanna hold that wrench? Oh, I see. You can go right through here. They made a hole in the frame. I didn't see that. Look at these people, man.
Once again, engineers helping mechanics.
Yeah, this looks like T45 or T50 over here.
All the threads.
Hit something expensive, probably.
I got it. No, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, it totally hit something expensive.
Right. So let's loosen up the axle, and we'll loosen the axle adjuster. We can get the belt off. We get the wheel out, and then the whole thing should come right out, like these things. So you just pull it off like that. Nick would be like this. He'd be down here with the biggest hammer he could find, cigarette hanging from his lips, 10 beers in, and he'd do this, and the thing would go flying across the shop, and he'd be like looking all over for it. You didn't need the hammer. You didn't need all that force.
Yeah, just a little like, we call them Jesus clips. So whenever you do that, you're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Cake. More cake.
Pull that through. The engine and the gearbox move relative to the frame. So if you had the oil tank bolted to the frame, now your oil lines are moving. And eventually you're going to work the oil lines or the fittings, and you're going to break. Something's going to break.
Makes sense.
So that's why they put the oil tank attached to everything. It's already moving. That's why they did it from an engineering standpoint. But then from the mechanic standpoint, just like we're talking about, it makes everything so hard. We're going to take this piece of 1.25 inch steel tubing. We're going to cut here. We're going to end up mounting this right to the axle plate. And then we're going to come right up in here to the frame, slice this in half so that it bolts right up here, but it continues this line perfectly back. On the bottom, we're going to come in and weld to the thing, but we're also, as these tubes come across here, we're going to bridge with another piece of steel tubing to the other side to give it strength and everything else, just to hold it to shape. And then this is where you're going to mount your fender also. And we'll get that in place so it's right at the right spot for you to get the fender looking just right. And then, we're gonna have to come down and pick up this mount in here somehow, so that, because this is a structural part of the frame. It holds your engine in place, and it's a structural part of the frame. So, the engine basically, this big piece of casting in the back of This big piece of casting in the back of the transmission place is actually a stress member of the frame, a structural part of the frame. So we got to use that too. Might as well. We got it.
But this is welding table goals right here.
Yeah, that segment table is amazing. Man, you can do so much with it.
Damn.
Before I had it, I've had that other one for years, and it's great. And it sometimes does things better than that segment table does. But yeah, that segment table, I bought 2 of them, and
Yeah, it's beautiful.
they're great.
This
That's the
thing's
one.
insane. Like, it is massive. Like, I'm not, you know, a little dude. You said how many of these in the US?
Yeah, probably a dozen.
12?
They didn't make that many. You know, they were used for, you know, those World War II aircraft and stuff. And
Oh yeah, melting down
World War-
metal.
That's how they made all those panels, man.
Yeah, sheesh.
Okay, I want to measure a couple things here before I F up real good. 11 1/4. Okay. There's probably a slug in here off the forging, but I'm not hitting that slug because if I was, I wouldn't be cutting that quick. You know, I know I'm hitting just tubing. My blade was starting to bind up because this is all welded, and wanting the twist is from the, you know, the welding heat makes it want to bind up. So I'm gonna cut the bottom one too, so that I don't break my blade, and then we'll come back and cut all the way through. You can see the slugs in there now. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they're way back there.
They're way back. So cut right along this weld and get this out. But I don't know if your camera can see it, if you want to grab your hand hold your camera, or you want to do it later, or.
Yeah, damn, I expected them to stick out a little further, but yeah, they got them way back there.
Yeah. The tubing is the female.
Right.
And then the little nub on there is the male. They, you know, go together like that. And then on the knucklehead, it would have the female on the forging, and then the tubing would be the male fit. And what they did was they would solder, they'd braze them, but they'd also drill through, and they put like a, you know, a dowel, steel dowel in there. Right. And they would solder that all in too to help locate it, so that even if you had a weakness in the weld, that dowel was taking a lot of the load. So it's just a difference in how something was made from 1936 to 2025, right?
A lot different.
Yeah. You know, we really don't need any of this yet. We're probably going to go back and reuse this, possibly reuse this section of it. That's going to be an afterthought. We're going to go ahead and get all this tubing off of here so that we can get our tubing on it. Like normally you want a perfect fit in there. And the reason is, perfect fit gives you, the dowel is carrying the load, and the other thing is when you weld, if there's no air on the backside, the air on the backside of the weld is dirty. And it gives you it weakens the weld.
Damn.
So if you have a tight fit, there's no possibility for air to be back there.
Right.
I'm just gonna cut around this weld. I need to get this weld out of the way. Now the next time somebody comes and asks me to hack up their brand new Harley-Davidson Softail, I'll know which way to cut it.
When do you think that'll be?
I don't know. Doesn't happen every day. So yeah, I compromised the integrity of that weld, and so now you can see how they construct this. They get that little slug in there that supports, you know, the forging against the tubing, which is gonna make it easier for me to correct that angle because it's loose. It's gonna allow me to correct that angle easier, but like a beautiful flower opening up in the morning, right? So I'll just go around. Once I get the other one done, I'll go and clean them up. I gotta do this 4 times, well, 3 more times now. I'll clean up some of the powder so I can get a good weld. We're ready to start kind of setting this back up.
Dude, what a hack.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the slip fit I was talking to you about. And what's kind of crazy is the tubing that we got for you is thicker than the tubing Harley-Davidson was using. The same outside diameter, but smaller inside diameter, which is good because it fits better. The forging has these little bungs, and I'm gonna weld here. My weld is gonna be strong enough to hold the load, but the little bung basically takes all the stress off of my weld, off of the joint, so that it's not bearing the load itself. But see, that one's a little bit sloppier of a fit. I have to go back and kind of regrind it. That shows you what this tubing would look like on the swing arm from what we started with. But I'm going to change these angles like we talked about earlier. So this is the right side that would go on the brake side of the bike, fuel injection side of the bike. Your primary side, kickstand side, the side you always damage the gas tank on when you wreck it. So anyhow, this angle like we talked about is not right. So there's a bunch of ways I can fix it, and I'm going to have to look at it. I'm not going to change the angle on both because it'll never be right. So I'm thinking I'm going to leave the top straight and then change the angle on the bottom ones, but we'll get it up there mocked up and figure it out from here.
This is Billy's 1937 Martin, right?
Yeah.
Right? Comes in and he picks it up and he's like, hey, if it needs to be tuned. What'd you say?
I said, I'm good, I have perfect pitch.
Perfect pitch.
I'm reading a bunch about those guitars. They were built, it's called a parlor guitar.
Parlor guitar.
And they were built to play like in a parlor in a mix with a piano and like a cello or a violin and different instruments, and also because they didn't have amplification back then, so literally it was basically built to mix in well with other instruments. It's pretty cool because like if you have like a Martin D28, which like I have upstairs, it's so big and bassy that it drowns out everything else in the mix. So that's why the Gibson J45 is so good, because it mixes in well, and those guitars were built for that, for playing in a parlor like in the 30s and 40s and stuff.
So it's just rack time.
Isn't it cool on the neck's like a V-neck? Especially as you go up to even to the first fret. It's like got a pretty hard V in it.
Yeah, the V. That's nice, man.
It's probably why it survived so well. It came from Hawaii. It was played by a Hawaiian, musician, and it's super humid there, and the humidity is what the wood likes. It probably doesn't like the salt, but it does like the humidity. And so that's probably why it survived all these years so well. It's never been repaired because of the humidity. I just cut this. This is gonna take up all the space with the axle spacers from the rear wheel, the hub from the rear wheel, the brake bracket, and the axle spacer on the right side took up. It's gonna be 11¼ inches when it's all done, but I need it to be square because this is what's gonna keep your axle plates from going like this when I weld. I'm gonna put this between the axle plates that we took off, and I'm gonna put the axle through it and tighten everything down, and that torque is gonna keep it square because this thing's gonna be cut square in the lathe. Yes. So, I'll take that rust off of it real quick. Everything you ever saw on Biker Build Off, and pretty much everything I've done since the late 90s was on this machine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this machine and me are like, man, we're pretty tight.
Homies.
Yeah.
I touched it.
Hey, man. And then, so this has to be 11¼ inches long. Put it in the chuck so far, and I'll measure that point, and then I'll measure the difference from here so I can get to my 11¼ Here's the edge I just cut on the lathe. So we know that's square. And this edge, I don't know, you probably see it with me rolling my hand. You can see it's not square. But I'll square it up. What I'll do is I go with my square end, and I need to be 11¼ inches, which is exactly where I'm at the short side of this. So that just happens to be luck.
Is it though, or have you been doing this?
No. Well, I cut it close, but so I had less material to remove. But some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug, right? So I'm just gonna clean it up so that we go. So now you have to do what? I'm like, no, it's done. Maybe like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's done. We're good.
First shot.
I'm like, well, that's what I thought too. But it was just, I swear it was like, like God knew that I was in a jam. Yeah. I'm like, here, man, let me help you out.
Yeah.
So.
Like, get it right the first time.
Oh, it's crazy, man. But. The thing with those was we would finish those bikes and then we'd ride them a really long distance.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you could fake it. You had to do it and get it done.
Shaking it down on the road.
We went from Florida to, first one was to the Smokeout, which was like Charlotte area, Salisbury, North Carolina, which is like the Charlotte, Mecklenburg area, basically. And then the second one I did was with Dave Perrowitz, so we rode from Daytona. I rode from Melbourne, but then the Daytona, but we rode from Daytona to Dallas, mostly in the rain, mostly at night. And then the third one I did was with Indy Larry. We rode from St. Louis to Sturgis.
That's a ways.
Yeah, that's a good ways. And then the fourth one I did was with Mike Brown. and we rode from Biloxi, Mississippi to Daytona. That was the easiest one. And then the last one we did was with Russell Mitchell. We rode from Chicago to Laconia. It was like 1,600 something miles.
Damn.
That was a trip.
Yeah.
I got lucky, caught fire about an hour outside of town and didn't have to ride it no more.
Yeah. Was the one burned down?
Yeah.
Damn.
And I was actually happy, man, because that motor and that bike was so out of balance that it hurt to ride it. It hurt to ride it. So it was like, I was happy because
You didn't have to ride it anymore.
I didn't have to ride it anymore. I got
Yeah.
to get off and get in their little minivan. I was good to go. I was like, hey, I'm heading up.
Dude, y'all were made of something else back then, because when Crucy and I did it, and we rode from Orlando to Austin, it was like a 2-day trip, right?
Yeah.
1,000 miles one way.
Yeah.
And I was dying, and that was on a bagger with like nice suspension. Y'all were doing it on hardtail, so.
Man, when I got my Road Glide ST, I rode to Born Free, Texas from here, and that was like 700. I think it was 760 miles. I rode it on a Friday. It was 34 degrees when I left in the morning, and I got there in the evening. It was a lot warmer down there. It was still probably in the 60s, maybe or 50s when I got there, but it was in the 30s most of the ride here until the sun came up. And then so like 760. I rode down Friday, hung out Saturday, rode back Sunday. I felt like $1 million.
Damn. Turn and burn.
It ended up being like 15 something in total. You know?
You go from hardtail to that. Yeah, that's a big. You're like sitting on a couch.
But this is the dummy spacer that I made. And I don't mean to offend anybody by calling it a dummy, so if I do, so sorry. But that's gonna basically take up, like I mentioned, everything that's happening between the axle plates without having to put all that hardware in there. So it just solves a ton of problems.
Smart.
And then allow me to mock this up in a really nice way. So I tighten up the axle and have to get these two in alignment relative to each other, and that could prove to be tricky, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But right now, they should be roughly on the same angle. I'm not worried about it right now. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to take it over to the bike and show you what's happening. But now that I've got my spacer in here, I can start mocking up my top tube. It's going to slide over that and come about at that distance. Everything's going to move inward a little bit because of the way the frame is made here, so I have to cut some of the material off of this. But that's about where you're going to be, and that's going to get your axle roughly to where we were talking about, as far as raising it to get your ride height right. So, I'm kind of managing a bunch of different factors at once here.
Oh yeah.
But and the same on this side. This side will come up over here. It's going to go up there and be a natural straight line from that frame right back down the axle plate. Manipulate the bottom ones to get down to the bottom of the frame and get that 40-degree angle, included angle here that we were talking about. So
Bada bing, bada boom, hardtail.
pretty much. So yeah, we're good.
That's sick, dude. All right, so Billy had to make a call, so we're taking a little bit of a breather, but figured take a moment, do a little bit of a gratitude break, because this is mind-blowing. The fact that, I even have this opportunity to be here and working with such a legend, right? Billy Lane. And honestly, once again, I always try to practice that gratitude, and to think of where I started, working on a used Harley-Davidson Iron 883 in parking lots, and literally now being able to work with like such an icon, being able to work with Harley-Davidson, having the opportunities that we do is mind-blowing. It's not lost on me that, I'm grateful for all of this, all of it. And that's because of you guys, hitting subscribe, hitting like, all that stuff. So being able to stand here and check out, Mike Wolf's 1937 Harley-Davidson Knuckle, or Sean's bikes, or, Billy's custom stuff. It's nuts, just absolutely nuts. So can't thank you guys enough for giving me the opportunities that y'all do by supporting us. Honestly, I'm just mind blown. I'm so stoked to see what this bike becomes. We're in the middle of it. We're literally taking everyththing off, chopping stuff up, getting those measurements, watching him work. Absolutely incredible. I'm almost at a loss for words, but yeah, it's crazy. The thing is beautiful. And I don't know, it just feels awesome to be able to pay homage to it, but then also to have one here, or two here, because it's a 37 also. Once again, thank you guys. Like I said, I think it's important to practice gratitude, and I'm super grateful. So thanks, y'all.
Is measuring how much I'm gonna have to cut off of this tube to graft it in to the frame. So I'm gonna have to cut like 7/8 of an inch off of here. It'll come in alignment and look like it's one continuous piece when I'm done welding and blending it. So, that's where we're at. I'm just doing a mock-up here of kind of where everything's gonna sit. Like I need to be 17.25 here. I need to be 12.5 height is your natural height, but I'm gonna drop it. So I'm gonna go 14.5 to lower the back of the bike. Then I'll just get in the general vicinity. So 17.25 there. You know, about a 19-inch section. Steel here, this is 20 inches. So once I put that on, you know, this is how this is all gonna come together. Curve back like that when we cut it, and it's all gonna go in so nice. And I'm gonna cut that 7/8 of an inch off. Here, I'll draw a line down here and cut this. Have a real nice fit. Probably weld each one of these together flat on the Sigmund welding table so that everything's straight and flat. And then mock them back up in here, tack them to this, check all my levels, you know, tack everything together and then weld it up, man. It's pretty wild.
That is wild. I like to go from like just an idea in your brain to like, you know, seeing it actually become a reality.
You know, so I got in the business of the wide tire. My brothers, lived in Miami Beach and South Beach in the late 80s and early 90s, and they started having all these European, South Beach was like junkie haven. You know, it was all retired people and junkies. And the Europeans started vacationing there. And so they started renovating all the Art Deco hotels, and South Beach became what it is now, like this big tourist mecca. But my brother's girlfriend was Swedish, so she was bringing us all these Swedish chopper magazines.
Oh, sure.
And they were taking car wheels and drilling them and making wide tire spoke rims out of them and putting car tires on the back of these choppers. And I love that, you know, so I started doing that myself. Because to buy it from, this is before the internet, you know.
Yeah.
Like 1990.
Just working off of photos, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I started going to the junkyard and getting old car and van rims and cutting the centers out of them and drilling them and buying spokes from Buchanan and lacing them up to a Harley-Davidson hub and building a wide tire and a wide rim. Then there was no frame for it. So then I started taking frames, you know, like a Apopka frame or a Harley-Davidson frame and widening it.
Yeah, damn.
So I've done, over the course of the last 40 years, you know, with those frames and racer frames and everything else, probably like 125 frames.
Damn.
A little experience.
Yeah, a frame or two.
You know, and I made my own frames complete, but then I modified a lot of frames for a wide tire or for racing or for whatever, you know. So it's like for the average person, this would be a huge job. For me, it's more like, you know, I've done similar.
Yeah.
The details are different, but as far as the overall approach.
Yeah. Principles are the same.
Yeah. So I cut this piece of the frame tubing, you know, we're gonna section it right in here. So I'm fitting it, you know, just hand fitting it, leave myself a little bit of gap. I'm gonna tighten this up a little bit. I need a little bit of gap so I can get some material in there, but not too much. Peel this line right down to the axle plate, you know, you have that straight line you've been looking for and give you that real 1930s knucklehead stance.
It's like you know what you're doing or something.
You know what I mean?
Bro, that's
when you've been getting lucky for 40 years straight.
Yeah. I don't think luck has, you know, I mean, maybe a little bit to do with it, but experience might be a lot of it too.
That's the whole line right there.
Yeah.
It makes the vintage Harley-Davidson look. That line it runs from the neck right down to the rear axle. That's what gets you every time.
Yeah.
And everything else works against that.
It's funny because whenever I talked about this being the idea for it and needing to hardtail it, you know, people were like, damn, you're gonna hardtail like perfectly good bike, you know, you're getting rid of the suspension. Why are you doing that? It already looks kind of like it. And I'm like, looks kind of like it. It doesn't look actually like it. There's a break, you know? And so in order to get that clean line, it's a focal point. It's a huge focal point. And so you pretty much have to just continue it. So that's exactly what we're doing. And you're killing it, bro.
Come on, that's what I do. Real nice up here. We're going to be able to graft this rear section we're going to use into the existing Harley-Davidson frame, eliminating the swing arm and turn it to a rigid. And so now I've kind of hand shaped the one side back and forth off the bike over to the, you know, grinder back and forth. But now that I've got it like this, let me show you how I transfer stuff. So I take a piece of manila folder and I got my line, it's just basically my length. So I'm going to kind of line up with that line. You know, fold my my paper over. And then I'll come in and fold like this. And I'm kind of pulling against the edge with my dirty fingers. My fingers just dirty from cutting and grinding, right? But give myself a nice sharp edge, and the dirt on my fingers actually transfers the work. So go like this. Isn't that crazy how that works? I've been doing this for years. I've been doing it for years, man. And I've showed it to a couple people, and they're like, "There, that's like." But so I just transfer like that, right? Then I'll just go cut this out with a pair of scissors, lay it onto the other pipe. I can show you how I do that real fast. This isn't science. This is art. Cut right across here where my cut line is, and then just kind of cut along the template that I just made out of the manila folder. And again, it doesn't have to be exact because I need a little bit of gap to weld into anyhow to get my filament right in there. So, but I get a nice tight fit for my next piece of tubing, and I just lay this on it. And you can, a lot of ways you can hold it. You can use tape, just mark it. Again, it's not science, doesn't have to be exact. This isn't going into outer space, just going to California. Which is maybe close enough.
I was about to say, pretty much outer space.
Come back around here. There we go. Then I got my line, and I'll just basically cut this one. When I'm done, they'll mimic each other. They're a real good, simple way to get it close.
Dude,
it works.
It's like one of those things you would like almost so simple that you would overlook it, but it's like that's gonna work perfect.
Manila folder, Sharpie or Milwaukee ink saw, scissors. It's Jedi level, man. It's Jedi level.
That's true. Good reference. All right, figured out how to get all this out of the way. They really did a number in this whole area with, I don't know, getting everything squeezed in there, but yeah, getting it kind of dismantled. So we got a bolt down here, and you had another clip up here. So just pull that out of the way.
Pretty inconsiderate of Harley-Davidson engineers to not think somebody like us might want to come and chop one of these things up completely one of these days, It's like,
Yeah. I don't think it's happening so much these days, like people aren't like hardtailing Softails. But yeah, to take a brand new one, you're definitely working around a lot of electronics. There's a reason that chopper builders used carbureted bikes.
oh yeah.
Because they're way, way easier. The first thing you said, actually, whenever we were unloading it, you're like 7 miles of copper line in this thing. Yeah, yeah. Like, yep.
Half of the way the motorcycle's in the wiring harness.
Yeah, no joke. We got the edges cleaned up, ready for the madman over here to work his magic.
That's it, man. And you can see it from back here. Right away you get that rigid. You start to just realize you got a rigid frame. Just a little trim, and we'll have you riding rough real quick here, man.
Seriously, who the does this to like a brand new Harley-Davidson? I think it's got less than like 30 miles on it. Big thanks to Harley-Davidson for working with us, because I sure as wouldn't buy a new one and like just immediately do this crazy. Really appreciate the collaboration there, and appreciate the collaboration with you, man.
Hey man, this is fun. This is starting to get really fun now. Like the cut and grinding stuff is a lot of work and figuring it out, but then once you start taking it together and seeing it come to life, that's like,
yeah, it's exciting.
Especially, I've never seen an M8 hardtail before.
Me neither. All right, so in order to not make spacers for pivot point through the rear engine mount that used to be there for the swing arm, we're just taking the swing arm and we're removing the
spherical joint.
Spherical joint.
Yarada. There we are.
Bro, I was gonna use that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Immediately. Here you see the wild Billy Lane squaring up a hardtail.
He's just going through a hard day of changing diapers.
Yeah, I just had to buy diapers, so. I know like narrating or talking about this guy in the third person while he's like sitting right there is weird, but the meticulousness of him, oh my God. Like squaring this thing up on this table.
Yeah, I'm determined to get it right, man.
It's fighting.
I don't mind it fighting, I don't like it winning. That's the big problem I have.
That's true.
Go ahead and fight me, just don't win me.
Yeah. Well, your relationship with metal is, what'd you say? Remind it who's boss.
That's right. It's always gonna lose. It has to know. It has to know. All right, so we got good looking welds on here. Definitely strong. You know, I'm burning them in, so my man doesn't have to worry about anything coming unglued. I'm gonna let it cool, then I can flip it over and weld the other side. But you know, it'll have pulled itself into shape by now just from all that welding and heat and everything. And then we'll literally get this piece welded on and then graft those bottom pieces in. And believe it or not, like this would be strong enough for you to ride it. I mean, you couldn't ride it forever, but you could actually ride it down the street. If I can touch it with my bare hands, it means it's cool enough. It's still hot. It's not gonna pull on me, but you can see as I do that, it's not jumping off the table, you know, like it was trying to do before.
Yeah, under tension.
That's what we're looking for. So I'm just gonna flip it over, weld this other side. I don't even have to clamp it down now, you know, it'll behave like it's supposed to.
It's so clean, man. You make it look so easy. I know it's not.
Yes, you know, the thing about TIG welding is you got to be able to manage several things at once. You know, your torch angle, your current, your filler rod speed, your distance from the electrode to the metal. You know, there's all kinds of things. You're managing really 7 things. It's actually 7 things at once. What? Must be because of all that heat I put into it.
It's actually the spicy sweet chili.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then basically the same thing around here. We're gonna come in, you know, roughly in here and take all this paint off. If we have to, we can move the jack forward, you know.
Mm.
I just put another jack under it, under the front. There's a bunch of them there. And pull this one out. You know what I mean? It's that simple.
The bottom pieces, we got the top brace, grind off the powder, and then wheel back on.
Home stretch for sure.
All right, I'll get to work on this.
I've had this plate for years, but I use it, you know, when I'm welding on a table with a bike or trying to do anything. You can ground to it, you can weld to it, you can clamp to it, you know what I mean? There's just so much, you can hang it off the edge and put like a C-clamp on it.
Oh yeah.
It's really convenient.
Like, it's perfect. Yeah, we get that little brake anchor piece. Golden. This guy's a magician.
Just hold it right there. I don't need to hold it up here yet.
Yeah, there you go.
And then with the axle all the way forward, this should be back so that it slides out. Yeah. You know. So just slide this across. All right, tack.
All right, guys. Normally in our videos, you know, you'll see like a part of it and then we'll be like, all right, we're to a good stopping point. We'll see you tomorrow. And it'll be like, tomorrow. That didn't happen here. Billy Lane is a fucking machine. Seriously.
Hey, man.
He said, I got my first Choppers Inc. all-nighter.
All-nighter.
Yeah. It is 1:38 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And we've been at this since about 12:30. That's over 12 hours.
You know, once I started, it's like it's hard to, you know, do maybe half this job and then clean everything up and put it away and come back a week later or a couple days later or the next day even. I like to just get in it, get it done. Obviously, you have a lot of work to do on this bike that I'm not gonna be a party to, but I want to get everything I need to get done so I'm not holding you up.
Dude,
You know?
no, this is massive.
And then plus, it's cool to see. That's a lot for one day, and I've never seen a rigid M8. You know. So
No, me neither.
I'm sure people are doing it, but I haven't seen one of them. And when I do see one, it probably won't be good. I was up at Donnie Smith's show. I went up there just to kind of see Donnie and support him. I hadn't seen him in a while. And God, I can't think of the guy's name of the shop. He had a Road King, M8 Road King. It was like a chopper, long raked out front end. It was so dope. He does nice work, really nice work. That bike was like my favorite of the show, and
Nice.
I was like, I'd ride it.
Says a lot for you because you usually don't ride any of the newer stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like my Road Glide ST, you know, for like a long trip, but I don't ever get to go on long trips.
Yeah.
So it's like almost serves no purpose. Like when I rode it to Border Free, Texas, that was like amazing. You know, 95 miles an hour the whole way.
Yeah,
Just like,
cruise control.
and that's what the thing is made to do.
Yeah.
You need to be 700 miles away by sundown.
Yeah.
Take that M8 Road Glide, but for riding around town and going to work every day and stuff, just not.
He prefers a 37 Knucklehead.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, this is nuts. So we're currently waiting for the metal to cool down.
Which is still really hot.
Yeah.
Like, through this, I don't feel it, but I just touched it with my hand, it's hot. Yeah. I was
For a little
welding
bit.
200 amps, and that, man, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, but yeah, after it cools down, we'll get the wheel, get it back up here, run the axle, brake mount, spacers. It'll roll again, which is crazy because I rolled it in here 12 hours ago, and it's gonna roll out, but now a hardtail. Which I understand, based on the comments of that first video, y'all are asking like, what the or why the because chopper man.
Yeah, because welding, and also because why the not?
Yeah, modeling it after a 37 knuckle, it's gotta be a hardtail. Ah, nice. All right, so we just took it down off the stand. So seeing it, I haven't even stepped back and looked at it yet, but Billy's smiling, so I think that's
Oh, it does look good.
a good thing.
It does look good.
Dude, yes. Serious, that looks so good.
It really does. And the drop in the back is like substantial when you're gonna need it once you put that springer on.
Yeah,
You're gonna know you needed to do that.
yeah, it'll level out for sure.
These bikes just look big. Lowering it to take a lot of that, you know, massiveness out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you took a lot already visually out of all this, but then and if you don't put that pipe back on, you're doing yourself a big favor.
No, definitely not putting the stock one back on.
But
Since we did lower it, it did tension the belt. So I was planning on chain driving it anyways. Once I get back, we'll just chain drive it. But yeah, there you go. It looks tough, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, just yeah. I run with a frame seat. But, yeah, pretty good. Oh man,
That stuff.
Come on now.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's a huge step of the Born Free Heritage 37 knuckle retro mod. I don't know what the hell I'm calling it. We got to come up with a clever name. Today was like an absolutely huge day for it. Like hardtailing a softail, you know, hang out with Billy, absolute master of his craft. And for us to knock this out, literally like we started it today, ended it today. Seriously, man. Thank you.
Hey, it's been fun.
Dude, this is such like it's a keepsake, like I said. Like I'd love to have you sign it whenever we're getting to that point where it's done. Yeah, this will be heirloom. Yeah, never get rid of it kind of thing. All right, guys, so we are going to get the bike out of here. We're gonna load it up. It's 2:30 in the morning. We've been at this all night. Guys, seriously, I cannot thank Billy Lane enough. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Look at the haze in the shop. You're welcome. That's it. That's all the dust that we cut off of this thing.
Yeah, lots of haze, lots of metallic taste. But y'all do me a favor, if you're not following him already, you should be. If you're interested in fabrication, custom builds, this dude's an absolute legend. He's been doing this for how long?
Almost 40 years.
40 years.
1987.
Yeah. Like the hubless chopper stuff, biker build off stuff, custom parts.
If you just type in my name,
yeah, he'll pop up.
YouTube, you know, there's a video or two in there.
Oh yeah. I'll be sure to link all of his links down in the description below. But yeah, you guys do me a huge favor. Go give him a follow across all that stuff. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I know it was probably longer, but this was a very, very big job. So you guys do me a favor, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the progress so far. I earned my all-nighter Choppers Inc. badge. I'm gonna get that tattooed on me now somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like. If you guys aren't subscribed, hit subscribe. Hit the bell icon also so it sends you notifications of future uploads and activity. Until next time, ride safe, stay vigilant. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.